Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to RFID Journal Virtually Live. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mark Roberti. I'm the founder and editor of RFID Journal. I'll be your host for the keynote sessions today. First, let me say that I hope you and your loved ones are safe and unaffected by the coronavirus, and I hope that your businesses, while impacted, are coping with the crisis. None of us ever dreamed that 2020 would go this way, but the good news is that businesses and the people that drive them forward have proven themselves flexible, adaptive, and capable. Investing in new technologies is certainly part of that. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Special thanks to our cornerstone sponsor, Spotsy. They've been a great partner, fairly new to the RFID industry, but got a great product, and I encourage you to check it out. Also, special thanks to Avery, Dennison. They really stepped up in this time and have taken our signature sponsorship, our platinum sponsorship, and our label sponsorship, all of which, label converter sponsorship, all of which helped us pull off this event. Our registration and platinum sponsor is ST Microelectronics. Our platinum sponsors are Omni ID, SM, and SML RFID. Our gold sponsors are HID Global, Identiv, and Semtech. Let me take a moment to explain how this session works. The audio for this event is broadcast over the internet. You need to make sure that your computer device's audio is available, unmuted, and the volume is turned up to an acceptable level. You will be on mute for the duration of the call. If you have a question, you can submit it to us at any time during the session by typing it into the question tool in your tool palette. Your questions will be queued up for me, and I will present them to the speaker at the end of the session. A recording of this session will be available after the event. We'll send you a link via email so you can review the content and share it with your colleagues for on-demand viewing. Our plan is to keep the platform up until October 30th, so you'll have the opportunity to go back in and see any sessions you missed. Our first session is sponsored by Avery Dennison. The title is 2020, A Catalyst for Change. Our speaker is Jeremy Shenoff. He is the Vice President of Strategy and New Business Development for Intelligent Labels at Avery Dennison. So with that, let's jump into the session.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you to RFID Journal for the opportunity to speak here today. I hope everyone out there is doing well this morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. I'm sorry we can't be together in person for this discussion, but the upside is that you can view this from your couch if you like. I'm going to speak today about what perhaps is the elephant in the room, or maybe I should say it's the elephant that has kept us confined in our own rooms for the past 6 months. That's COVID-19 and its impact on digital identification technologies. COVID has obviously upended our medical systems, our economies, and our lives. And with that has presented many challenges to our industry, as well as some opportunities. I'm going to talk about the changes that we see coming as a result of this pandemic. Changes that have created an incredible sense of urgency right now, but will have huge implications for the future. The theme that underpins this discussion is our vision that every physical item will have a unique digital identity in digital life. We are committed to help bridge that divide between digital and physical. We are committed to driving the adoption of digital ID technologies across multiple markets to enable this reality. And we are committed to working with brands and customers, converters, service bureaus, system integrators, and other ecosystem partners. This is what gets us out of bed every morning, finding ways of using digital ID technologies to shine a light on value chains that have been sitting in the dark for too long. A little bit about Avery Dennison and who we are. Earlier this year, we completed our acquisition of SmartTrack, and we are now one company and one team. Together, we bring deep industry expertise, global R&D capabilities, a broad IP portfolio, a commitment to industry-leading quality standards, and a global manufacturing footprint built for scaling to over 12 billion inlays per year across 7 sites in the Americas, Asia, and Europe. We are also fully committed to sustainable innovation in manufacturing to reduce both the impact we and our customers have on the planet. We do this in 3 ways. We provide products that align with our own corporate goals of reducing impacts on our operations and advance the circular economy. We provide solutions that enable sustainability for our customers, systematic impact of improving efficiencies, increasing transparency, and reducing waste throughout supply chains. We also provide life cycle analysis tools to identify the lowest carbon footprint solutions while not impacting our core strengths around cost, performance, quality, and capacity. Our product portfolio offers a progressive family of digital ID technologies to suit multiple applications. We recognize that different problems require different technology solutions. We do believe, though, that UHF will remain the de facto technology for inventory accuracy and visibility, and supply chain traceability and transparency. But we are also focused on pushing the boundaries of where digital ID can go by partnering with and investing in new technologies that expand the use cases beyond those that RFID can address alone. We recently published a report called IoT and the Imminent Supply Chain Revolution, for which we conducted an extensive survey carried out with a panel of over 700 C-suite and leadership roles from retail, logistics, supply chain industries across the UK, US, Central Europe, China, and Japan. The report explores the likely role that the Internet of Things will play in the global supply chain operations and consumer experiences in the future. This survey found that 63% of C-suite and leadership roles believe that the COVID-19 pandemic will bring supply chains into even sharper focus. 63%, it's obviously a large number, but it almost seems low based on, I think, what we all see and experience and read every day today. COVID-19 has created huge shifts in demand and rapidly changing buying behaviors, putting pressure on the agility and speed that supply chains can offer. Those that adapted are the best, those that have the best visibility into their supply chains, and digital ID enables this. The changing needs of digital ID technologies, such as RAIN RFID, is impacting multiple industries, from established markets such as apparel and retail to emerging industries, including food, beauty, pharmaceuticals, and automotive. The need for complete accuracy, visibility, and transparency across the supply chain is becoming more and more important to help increase efficiencies and speed, reduce waste, and eliminate holdups. The end goal is a common one across industry segments: improved customer satisfaction. One clear driver on the future of digital ID technologies surrounds the evolution of use cases and the more increasing demands of consumers. Consumers are crying out for more transparency over the products they consume, from the materials they are made from, how they are produced, the journey they take to reach their final destination, and the critical factor of how products have been, quote, handled in the supply chain. COVID-19 is shining a light on how supply chains operate for multiple reasons: meeting demand, ensuring products are safe and not contaminated, as well as guaranteeing that products are authentic and have not been tampered with. All of these factors are impacting the types of technologies that will be needed in the future, from item level tracking to sensors to consumer engagement. More to come on this later in the session. COVID-19 has presented itself as the biggest disruptor that industries have seen in decades. Digital transformation was a buzzword before 2020. Before COVID, 70% of companies indicated that they were planning a digital transformation. But COVID has forced everyone to step on the accelerator. Retail is an obvious example, which probably hits close to home for all of us. Retail is seeing an acceleration away from physical stores to digital shopping by roughly 5 years. This effectively means that next year, in 2021, we will arrive at where we thought we would be in 2026 in terms of e-commerce penetration. Many of our own personal experiences have borne this out. I know mine has. I would consider my family to be a fairly e-commerce forward household. But now we are more or less ordering everything we can online. Cans of soup, peanut butter, we are pushing the boundaries of what can be delivered in a brown box for both convenience and safety. As a result of this, what has always been considered part of a digital roadmap has now become the front and center of everyone's must-do now list. There are 3 key trends impacting the need for digital technologies and the adoption of RFID Each one of them has only been amplified by COVID-19. The first is supply chain agility and speed. The second is new inventory and fulfillment models. And the third is touchless technologies. None of these are new concepts, and they are certainly not new concepts for our industry, but they all become much more acute as a result of the pandemic. The first trend I'd like to cover is supply chain agility and speed. Stay-at-home orders and safety concerns have forced shutdowns and disruptions across the supply chain. We started to emerge from the initial shock, but long term, the recovery will be digital. Those words, the recovery will be digital, that's actually the title of a report published recently by McKinsey. In the chapter on retail and fashion, their message was clear: think data from the start. From tracking products to improving efficiency and automating logistics, to improving consumer experiences through availability and convenient delivery models, supply chain and inventory visibility is no longer purely a topic of business operations. Whether it's PPE equipment, hand sanitizer, or hair dye, this pandemic has exposed the lack of agility in many supply chains. Transparency is not only a driver for business, but also for consumers who want to know the who, what, and where of the products they purchase. In order to have supply chain agility and transparency, you need to have data on the physical goods flowing through your supply chain. Those goods need to be digitized, and that data needs to be ingested. We are working with food companies to help them improve product traceability. Digital ID can also be used to provide product authenticity solutions as well. Here, as an example, we partnered with Suku, a blockchain company, to provide NFC-based authenticity solutions for COVID test kits and PPE equipment. Before COVID, companies embracing digital technologies outperformed their peers. The same report from McKinsey showed that from 2010 to 2018, digital leaders generated 1.6 times the returns of laggards. And this pandemic will likely further widen this gap. RFID as a technology is critical to digitizing supply chains to increase agility and speed through automated data capture. The second shift we're seeing is the acceleration of new retail fulfillment models. The retail landscape has always been shifting, from department stores in the mid-1800s to big box stores in the 1960s to e-commerce in the 1990s. However, these past shifts have been more of a gradual evolution. Not so with the changes we're seeing today. With stores being forced to close, retailers must adapt almost overnight. Over the past several years, many retailers were just starting to get comfortable with omni-channel fulfillment methods like ship from store and buy online pickup in stores. Some grocery stores have offered curbside pickup options, but same-day delivery was a fairly niche model. That obviously has all changed. BOPIS sales jumped over 250% year on year in August, according to the Adobe Consumer Research Report. Instacart orders have increased by 500%. Again, speaking from personal experience, we've done delivery and curbside pickup for groceries in the past, but now I've done it for Best Buy and Home Depot as well. In fact, in North America, the percent of the top 500 retailers offering curbside pickup has increased by over 6 times between December 2019 and August 2020, according to research from Digital Commerce 360. These changes obviously put huge pressure on inventory visibility and ensuring that stores have the right product in the right place, which is only compounded by the supply chain challenges we just spoke about. Enabling shoppers to find what they're looking for has always been important. And now, with expectations of having inventory available across multiple channels and delivery format, this becomes all the more critical. RFID can play a crucial role, not only in meeting shopper expectations, but also ensuring that sales are not lost due to poor product availability. And Chris Barton from our team is going to go into this topic in more depth on September 30th as part of the retail track. The last trend I'll cover is touchless technology. Concepts like contactless payments and unmanned stores are not new. But if we think about our current environment where store capacity is reduced and consumers need to be more efficient in their shopping trips, and there's a need to maintain social distancing, we expect the demand for contactless technologies that enable frictionless, efficient retail to only increase. Indeed, 77% of consumers expect to use more touchless technologies, and about 70% of retailers believe those patterns are here to stay even after the pandemic subsides. We're adapting new behavior patterns that will stay with us for years to come, and contactless, frictionless shopping will be one of those. Even now, we're working with retailers to make this a reality. In Italy, we're working with Esselunga for an RFID-enabled self-checkout solution. And with Nesti in Finland, we're working with partners to create unmanned stores based on RFID. This trend is not only for food and grocery, but also in apparel. Retailers are looking to automate the shopping experience and making it more contactless. Before COVID, contactless was a discussion more around payments, but now there is a need for a fully contactless shopping experience, and RFID is helping to make that a reality. In light of all this, It shouldn't be surprising that over half of the global retail leaders we surveyed believe that digital technologies can help them solve their big problems such as brand safety, trust, product authenticity, and transparency. RFID clearly has a foundational role to play in getting data from product to edge to the cloud. At the beginning of this presentation, I spoke about our vision of every item having a unique digital ID and digital life. But what does having a digital life really mean? Having a digital life means supporting the full product life cycle from manufacturing all the way to recycling. And that's what I find really exciting. This is not a point solution relegated to one function or one process, but a foundational investment that can be leveraged across the value chain. The examples we discussed today show how RFID can do this. In Avery Dennison, we are committed to working with our customers and partners to make this happen. If you want to learn more about how Avery Dennison can enable digital ID solutions, I encourage you to attend our retail track session and label converter workshops, or just reach out and talk to us at our virtual booth. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference, and now I'll be available for Q&A.
Okay, folks, if you have a question, type it into your Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. So Jeremy, a question for me. Do you think COVID-19 has fundamentally changed the need for RFID solutions?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously something that we spent a lot of time thinking about given the environment. And I think what's interesting is that, the answer is no. I think in some cases it's only amplified the need. If you think about kind of the fundamental things that RFID is solving around inventory visibility, around supply chain traceability, I think those problems have only become more acute given the coronavirus pandemic.
Right, okay. And overall, how do you think COVID-19 has impacted RFID adoption across different industries?
Yeah, I think it's varied depending on the space you're looking at. I think some areas, I think a lot of projects have unfortunately been sort of paused just due to the fact that you can't get into a site to do a site assessment or a site survey. Obviously, people are looking at budget, so I think we've certainly seen some of that. And there's some segments that have been fairly negatively impacted. For example, the aviation industry was sort of showing a lot of positive momentum towards baggage tagging last year. Obviously, given the fact that no one's traveling, it puts a lot of pressure on that space and sort of slowing things down quite a bit.
Right. You mentioned safety as being an important aspect. How does RFID play into improving safety for consumers, products, and so on?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple avenues there. So one is around product traceability, and I think this is an issue that predates coronavirus, right? I mean, I think if you think about food safety and the amount of food recalls that at least we see in the United States, it's very difficult for the food industry to kind of point where the problem is because they're not ingesting kind of all the data they need to in their supply chain to enable traceability. And so I think RFID can play a tremendous role in that and helping reduce the amount of time and cost associated with product recalls. So I think that's sort of one area that we're focused heavily on. I think another couple of areas which I spoke about in the presentation, particularly now, is around making sure people feel like they have a safe experience when shopping. So that could help them get in and out faster, eliminate sort of more contact with both people and product on the shelves through touchless technologies. And then I know there are also solution providers out there that are looking at RFID as a means to provide kind of social distancing and traffic monitoring and making sure they understand what people go into what rooms and how many people in those rooms and who went into the rooms and sort of to help with the contact tracing part. So I think those are a few areas where RFID can really facilitate sort of safety around products and consumers. Okay.
How do you anticipate the data visibility being achieved? GS1 standards or another data standard?
I mean, I think ideally, I think GS1 standards are certainly critical for the areas where GS1 has penetration. I think potentially there could be some areas where maybe a new standard needs to be adopted, but I think generally it'd be great to see people leverage GS1 standards that are already in place.
Okay. We are further down the retail chain at the small store level. what will encourage manufacturers to tag their individual items so that we can just use the information rather than having to tag everything ourselves at the store level? What would be their motivation?
So if I understand the question correctly, this is kind of looking at a retail space where they have to kind of tag in their own distribution centers, their own stores versus kind of pushing it back to source. Yeah, I think there, we have to sort of work with the value chain to develop a sort of a win-win proposition. And I think if you're a manufacturer and you're providing products to a retailer, there is a benefit that you see. So if your inventory is more visible, it will turn faster and will sell faster. So I think that's the type of uplift that manufacturers that are using your RFID have seen working through the retail channel.
Okay. Do you see RFID dominating the product story applications, or will the QR code type technology be dominant in apparel and footwear?
So I assume when we mean product story, we're talking more of a sort of consumer engagement type application. I don't think it's an either or, honestly. It's probably a both, and the answer probably depends on what time horizon you're looking at. I mean, I think certainly in the near term, a QR code is significantly less expensive than an RFID tag. That said, it also kind of puts real estate on a label that you may not want to do. It's not necessarily as sort of seamless as using NFC. So, I think as time goes on, the cost of RFID and NFCs particularly will come down. And I think, we're working with some innovative players in that space, like Pragmatic IC, to enable that. And so I think it'll be more balanced as we get into the future is kind of how I see it.
Okay. Can you elaborate on the collaborations with companies in Italy and Finland?
Sounds like a fairly specific question. Maybe it's one better taken offline.
Okay.
I think this is sort of referencing the Esselunga and Nesti parts of the presentation. Okay, I see. Yeah, I wasn't sure if this was general.
And Nesti's speaking next, so no need to go into that.
Yeah, exactly. They'll talk about that. Esselunga is a food retailer in Italy, and like I said, we're working with them on sort of an RFID self-checkout solution. It's kind of it's kind of more akin to the type of thing where you sort of bag things up yourself and then scan it on the way out versus a Amazon Go type experience where you just sort of walk in and walk out.
Okay. E-commerce has played a big role during the pandemic and physical stores are closed. How will RFID play a role in key e-commerce operations?
Yeah, I think this is a really great question, because I think a lot of retailers that are not pure play e-commerce companies, they use their stores to fulfill e-commerce orders. So we talked about this in the presentation. They do ship from store. And so even if your store is closed to customers, you could still use that store as a sort of a fulfillment vehicle for your e-commerce order. And so I think that's where RFID plays a critical role, because in order to sort of efficiently fulfill orders and to ship from the closest location possible, you need to have visibility into what product is in what store.
Okay. For retail, do you consider smart vision systems like Amazon Go a competitor to RFID or part of the ecosystem of solutions that retailers need to deliver frictionless shopping?
Yeah, I think it's part of the ecosystem, and I think with technology solutions, maybe stating the obvious here, it's very hard to find one solution that fits every problem. And so I think there will be problems that vision solves, and I think there'll be problems that RFID is better positioned to solve. And I think we're going to start to see that as this moves forward. I think there's a lot of excitement around vision systems, but I think there are also some limitations that will enable other technologies to play a role in those types of use cases.
Right. Okay. What is your view on the developing use of UHF RFID technology directly in portable devices such as cell phones? This is already the case with NFC. Would we see significantly reduced equipment operating costs if we put the RFID reader in the phone?
Yeah, I think the answer to that, if we could get an RFID reader in our phone, yes, we would see a significantly reduced operating costs, and that would be a great state to get to. And I think that's probably a question best put to sort of the cell phone manufacturers and the hardware ecosystem. I think it's a state that we would love to get to. I think that said, I think there's there's some challenges and hurdles that we as an industry need to cross to get there. So I wouldn't expect the next iPhone release to have a UHF reader in it, but hopefully, a little down the road, we'll get there.
Okay. Hi from Portugal. We're in the middle of a huge challenge because most of our company's board has stopped all expensive projects protecting our cash. But in the meantime, we're losing tons of money with inaccurate stock trapped at the stores. Any vision from your side to manage these topics?
That's a really interesting question. So again, I mean, I think the obvious answer and something that we try to focus a lot on is really trying to quantify the benefit of the technology. So I think if you can make a case for how much cash you're losing from an inventory perspective and what the offset is for the the technology investment, I think that can make a compelling case. And then potentially there's ways to work with solution providers to develop a win-win to get the project sort of started and to sort of optimize the ROI both for you as well as kind of create a win-win for the solution providers that you're working with.
Okay. What contraction do you expect in the RAIN RFID market to have in 2020 due to COVID? And what do you think the recovery will look like in 2021?
I think that's a pretty broad question. I don't think I can speak to the entire industry, and obviously 2020 isn't fully in the rearview mirror yet. So I think, and I believe there's probably going to be some data coming out from sort of third parties around this soon that we can look forward to seeing. So, my expectation is that I don't think there's going to be a huge contraction in 2020, and my hope is that 2021 we kind of as we get on the other side of COVID, we start to see a rebound and we start to kind of correlate the relationship between sort of RFID and overall macroeconomic growth. We'll start to see that resume in 2021.
Okay, Jeremy, that's all the questions we have. I do apologize for our technical issues. Thank you for hanging in there and for answering the questions. And folks, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Our next session begins in about a minute. It's Nestle, a retailer that Jeremy referenced. So we hope you'll jump into that room and join that session as well. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Okay.